There you go.
G'day guys, you're back with MiracleMAX. Today in the workshop we have a Mazda 2 2011 model, that's the DE model, and it's got a 1.5 litre petrol engine in it. Now it's got this weird vibration, particularly at idle when it's in gear, your foot on the brake, you get this sort of weird strange sound under the bonnet. So what is this noise? I don't know, let's check it out together. Initially I couldn't hear this particular noise, but the customer had someone else who previously was a mechanic have a listen to it, and he confirmed the noise. He was there when it happened.
There you go, did you hear that? It just came in as the air conditioner turned off and on, but you can hear this. There you go. Right, so you can hear that squeaky noise there, guys. My other camera just failed at the moment, so this is on my phone. We'll just wait for half a sec, because it'll probably, once the air conditioner kicks in and out, it'll probably make that noise a bit more. There you go, did you hear that?
Now generally speaking, you'd expect like a low vibration to be a low idle situation, and you could get caught going down the garden path. But I found an interesting repair solution via TAT, the automotive technician, that put me on the right path. I'll share it with you. Honestly, even though I'm part of the TAT team, TAT is an amazing organisation that you get all the help that you could possibly want. Here you can see we've got a Mazda 2, there's all the details listed up there. My particular vehicle has about 240,000 Ks on it, so it's not unusual to find, you know, worn out components. And they went down the wrong garden path as they showed. The vibration at low idle, when in drive at lights, low RPM. And someone else before these guys got it, they'd done batteries, spark plugs, oxygen sensor, MAF, etc, etc. Now the solution is actually replacing the engine mounts, believe it or not. As stated, they went through quite a list of things. As it says here, the idle sits on a steady 550 RPM. Now that's one thing that concerned me. I said to the customer, well, it's probably just a low idle. I might be able to adjust the settings or clean the throttle body. I was going down that garden path myself, when in actual fact the solution is just engine mounts. It's as simple as that. Now the engine mounts aren't, in actual fact, they don't get age cracks associated with a normal worn engine mount, but in fact they just get soggy, okay? They get very, very soggy, and then the engine starts to vibrate backwards and forwards like this. So they replace the engine mounts, problem solved.
There you go, that's our problem. Right, so that's what we'll be doing today, replacing this mount as well as the one over there and the one at the back there. All three of them will be done.
As mentioned, it's in the 240,000 range, 243,874. Now, if we have a look at the RPM over there, that seems to be quite okay. It's around about 800 at the moment. I've got my scan tool hooked up. Let's just compare that. And our desired is 777, and that's pretty much within QE of what it's meant to be. Even though I can't show you now, before, maybe when it was hotter, it dropped down to about 550 desired RPM, and that was consistent with what I saw on the dash. So don't be stressed by the fact that it's a low RPM. In this particular software strategy, this is what they use. They use a very low idle for this particular model. A lot of people have been caught out. So let's have a look at those engine mounts. To check the engine mounts, I've got it on the quick jacks at the moment, but one more important thing is we need to put a jack underneath with a block of wood onto the sump, and we gently lift that up and see what the engine mount does. If you have a close look there, I'll just lift that with my foot. You can see it raise up quite a bit, can't we? There's a big gap, and I reckon the noise is actually between this rubber and the metal here. I reckon that's that squeaky sound, but clearly there's separation taken place there. So that's that particular engine mount. I'll show you another one. This is probably the one that's more obvious, but not necessarily the squeaky noise. But you can see that if I get in behind there, there's a hell of a lot of movement, and there is a bit of squeakiness there too. So yes, I'll be replacing that guy too. And also I'll do that transmission one, which is right up the top there, that guy there, which involves pulling out the battery, etc. But I'm going to do all three of them in view of how many Ks this vehicle has done. So this guy here, and finally that guy there. Well, actually we'll start with him. So for this guy here, we'll be using a 14mm, that guy there, and I think over here. This guy here is a 17, and I think that little earth strap is a 10mm. So it shouldn't be that hard to do. Oh, there's a couple of fellas downstairs there. I reckon they're 14s. Let's have a look. Yep, they're 14s. So not too hard to get this guy out. So I'll zip those guys out with the Milwaukee, and it shouldn't be that hard to do. Now keep in mind, we're still going to have to support the engine from below, aren't we? Because this mount here is holding the engine against the chassis rail. So we're going to have to support the engine with that jack and block of wood, so that when we pull this out, it's just going to be hanging in mid-air. So make sure you're safe, guys. Check this out, eh? Bit of a hula dance there. Not real great, guys. Not real great at all. That's why we're getting that squeaking noise. By comparison, this is our new one. Yeah, big difference, hey? These engine mounts in the Mazdas, as well as others, are a hydraulic engine mount. They're filled with a hydraulic oil, which is sort of a glycol water mix, and they have like a bladder in between. And once that leaks between the two, the whole thing collapses, and therefore we end up with that rubber seal on top rubbing against the metal. Now keep in mind, you're going to have to change this bracket over, and in my case they gave me a bolt here to put on with the new one. Now don't tighten this up beforehand, do all your bracket etc, and then tighten this up, then do this bolt last. That way it'll centralise it. Just to show you the importance of that one down there that's clearly not doing its job. Have a look at this. This is loose, of course, but have a look how much movement's there on that other one. Yeah, there's your problem, lady. That's why I'm doing all the mounts at once, not just a single one. If you're going to do it properly. 240,000 Ks. They're all going to be just as saggy as one another. I'll button this guy up now. So I've tightened those three guys there. I've put my earth strap back on there. And of course I've got these to tighten up. I've left them loose for now, just to centralise the mount itself, and then I can tighten this guy down. Don't forget this counterweight needs to be central, so buzz that guy down, then job will be done. I reckon that'll be easy enough for you guys, won't it? Much better. Fun fact, the old one had this rubber guy here sitting on the metal itself, didn't it? But this guy's floating in mid-air. I no longer have the jack holding it up, so this is actually sitting up a lot higher than it was before. Whereas this guy, not so much. So yeah, it's obviously collapsed inside, I'd imagine. And you can see the wear mark on the side there. See where it was rubbing on the metal? That's probably what the squealing noise was the rubber actually rubbing against the metal there, like I thought. Yeah. Yeah, it's very floppy there, guys. Yeah, so that's totally collapsed, that engine mount. Okay, so that's that guy done. We're going to head downstairs next. And underneath the vehicle here, this guy here, here we go. We've got some bolts on this side that we need to undo. They are 14mm, 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 and finally, guess what? 14mm, correct. Shouldn't be too hard to do this one. And I don't think you need to support anything, because this just stops any, lateral movement, I guess you'd call it, or axial movement. I don't know, one of them. What would I know? Took me like all of 30 seconds to pull this mount off, and you can see, like this guy here's got quite a bit of movement in it, and there's voids in there, isn't there? You can see where there's holes there. This guy here doesn't have the voids, and it's a lot stiffer than the other one. So it's just a matter of changing 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, job's done. That was a super quick job, easy to do, all 14mm bolts, in and out, no probs. And just testing it in comparison to the other one, there's only half the flex that there was with the other one. Cool, let's go to the transmission one next. Keep in mind that this is an auto trans. As mentioned, the battery's got to be disconnected, but hey, I'm a bit on the lazy side. I don't want to have to redo the clock and radio settings, etc. So I just hook up a little external battery using this little tool here, which is pretty cool. It goes into the OBD2 port. You can see there that we just went, when it's got this little blue light down here, it's measuring current that's being drawn. When it goes there, it's telling you the available voltage. So my battery down here, that guy down there, is enough to keep all my systems live. Keep in mind that when I disconnect my main battery, then I've got to be careful about not shorting it out against anything. But this is a great little tool to keep it live while you do your job. I've got the battery out. I've also got my positive lead taped up nicely with a rag so it won't short out on anything. Battery's out the road. 3 10mm bolts on the tray to get that out. I'll pull this tray off as well. Looks like it should come off fairly easily. 1, 2, 3. Then I'll get access to my mount down the bottom here. That tray should come off like a DOS. And it's held in by these wiring looms. So they've just got to be unclipped. Then I can get that whole tray out. Looks like it's got 1, 2, 3 wiring looms that need to be unhitched. And that should come out. And there's their little tray. We've got a, let's have a look at them. I reckon they're 17s. 1, 2, 3, 4. I reckon that's it. Keep in mind, remember I've got this supported from below. I've got the transmission jacked up, don't forget, so you've got to support it. But I'll just grab the new one and just do a comparison, make sure I got it right. Well, that's the new one there. Looks like it's right. I've got all my holes in the correct position. I've got my studs here to hold that tray on. Just keep in mind that there's a difference between the manual transmission and the automatic transmission. So when you go to your spare parts guy, make sure you tell him which transmission it is. Let's get those guys out. Super duper easy, mate. Just get rid of some of that dust build up under there so it doesn't get squashed underneath the bracket itself. Tighten him up. And of course it's so important to torque it correctly. I think most of them are 2 ugga-duggers. The wiring bracket goes on next. Don't forget to put all those connectors back into place. That one there, and this little spiny looking thing goes in the hole there. Battery tray is next. In goes the battery. Hold down clamps. Battery cables go on next, and hopefully my little battery had enough voltage in it that it kept everything live. And yes, my little maintainer did its job. Let's turn the ignition on and have a look. All right, what is the time anyway? According to that, it's, what, 11:23. Let's see what the Play School clock says. There we go, 11:24. Yep, retained its memory. Great. It's a great little battery maintainer, that one. You just hook it up to an external battery source. There you go. And it keeps the system live so that you retain all your radio and also your clock settings. Saves a lot of time. Just make sure you tape up your positive battery terminal. Look, this mount isn't as bad as the others. It's got a little bit of wobblage, but it's not too bad. But hey, I figured if you're going to do the other two, you might as well do this one, then they're all done together. They've all done the same amount of kilometres, of course. This has made a huge difference. The vibration's gone, that's for sure, but also the whole engine is a lot smoother. I don't think I'm exaggerating. Might just see if that guy will sit there. And look, there's really not much vibration happening there at all, considering obviously it's an engine, but what do you expect? But hey, there's not much vibration on that water there at all, is there, hey? So pretty impressive. And inside the cabin itself, it feels so smooth compared to what it was before. I can't believe it. Sometimes you don't realise how bad something is until you actually replace it. This feels great. Just going to take it for a quick road test to confirm that everything's honky-dory, but I'm sure that the customer's going to be over the moon with this. It feels totally different. After a thorough road test, I'm amazed at how different this vehicle feels. It's smoother, it drives better, and idling, nice and smooth. I could have quite easily got distracted with the idle, the low idle that these ones actually have as a strategy within the ECU, but fortunately when I had a look at TAT, the automotive technician, the repair solution, the answer was there. Those engine mounts do get soggy. So what's the story behind this? Do your research. That's the important thing. Otherwise you could be led down the garden path. So head off and do your research, but before you do that, subscribe to this channel, give it a like, feel free to comment down below. Of course, don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. There's Instagram, there's Facebook that you can catch up with us and see what's happening in the workshop as well as the electronics lab. And while you're hanging out for that long-awaited next video, you can cruise around on the channel and see that there might be other videos that interest you. But in the meantime, guys, this is MiracleMAX signing off. I will catch you later.